Three, two, one, we are live. And once again, I am deeply, deeply, truly honored and excited about today and about jumping on again and doing another Psychedelic Sunday. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Holly. I am co-founding and creating and collaborating with an amazing group of human beings, the birth and the creation of Earth Pulse Collective, which is a collective of souls from around the world who are coming together to talk about things that are really on the fringe. All sorts of different techniques and ways and methods and ideas that we're having collectively about the awakening of humanity. And we all have our different ways and our different process of doing this. And I was sitting down today before I was about to get on this call with Mark, who I'll introduce you guys to in just a second. And I was noticing something about myself that always happens. As I create a process or an idea or a flow for some sort of talk or some sort of class, and then I end up throwing it all out anyway, because it's actually not my process. My process is one of just turning up and then being present. And I was thinking before, because we always self-reflect on ourselves, right? And I was thinking before, there's that little voice that said, oh, sometimes, Holly, you jump from topic to topic, and sometimes there isn't maybe a flow to what you say. And then I had this realization, which I wanted to drop in before we go into this conversation, that a lot of the time for me, I'm jumping from excitement to excitement to excitement to excitement. And the conversation is one of following our highest excitements. And so I was sitting here and I was realizing that these aren't just conversations about information, but they're also these transmissions that are coming through myself and Mark today and anyone else who joins in or who's on the other side of these conversations in the future, which will be your now. So welcome. And it can become a real healing experience. The whole conversation can become a healing experience because of the energy that we're in as we're having these conversations. And then I remembered in thinking this, I was just sitting here just then having this feeling, when I reached out to Mark the other day and I said, do you want to do this? And you messaged me and you said, I'm so excited to have a conversation without an agenda. I feel like it's going to be a very healing process. And that's really stuck with me. And I realized that there really is no other agenda to what I'm doing or to what we're doing other than turning up and being committed to being ourselves. And just getting to be ourselves, because that's really, I can just like, yay, because that's really part of this path. It's the path of becoming ourselves and really getting to drop all those agendas and all of those layers that we've piled onto ourselves over years and years and years and years of conditioning, right, to be something other than we're not. And we're in this process of realizing that's not who we are, and the relief that comes as we walk this path of just coming back to being ourselves. So the last thing, I'll give you an overview of where I feel like we're going today, and then I'm going to introduce you to Mark, and we're going to go on this really interesting conversation, because you just sent me, Mark, a link to a podcast that I want to talk about later, a radio station, and I didn't have time to listen to it all, but I tuned in to at some point, I dropped the marker and I listened to about 2 minutes of something you were saying. And the first thing that you said was, we're opening these magical and sacred doors to the mystery that the ancient and indigenous have held inside of them about the plants and about nature. And even in these last few days of myself, it's been very magical. There's this idea of magic coming through everything that I'm doing right now, and starting to open these doors up to the magic that both the plants are kind of gifting us to. Well, I think the magic is within inside of us, right? But there are these sacred doors that when we're ready, we can open and we can start discovering the magic within inside of ourselves. So I have a feeling we're going to talk about the magical discovery of ourselves today, and all the methods and tools that Mark has come up with to help us access these magical parts of ourselves. And I know that you have got so many tools and methods that you're deeply passionate about. I'm very excited to talk to you about these. And the way I think we might do it, if you're happy with this, is firstly to talk about like the individual waking up and finding these magical doors into themselves, and then how that then translates into a global society or a world waking up and collectively finding these magical portals. So on that note, I want to welcome you guys to Mark John Brown. I'm going to pass it over to you. And I would love you just to share whatever you feel to share in this moment is your highest excitement. However you want to introduce yourself, however you want to say hello. There's no agenda here. Please have the platform just to be yourself. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. And thanks to everybody who's tuning in as well. It's an absolute honor, privilege, pleasure to be with you. And yeah, what to say? So I'm a shamanic practitioner. Have been for about 11 years now. Plant medicine integration coach. I'm more new to plant medicine integration coaching than I am to the actual shamanic path. Been practicing actively with clients since about October last year, after going through 10.5 years of my own healing with plants. My first medicine ceremony was on the edge of Lake Titicaca in February 2009, actually. So it's actually a little bit longer, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, and like yourself, Holly, I'm also, as you saw, we kind of came together at one point fleetingly online with the community that I'm also co-creating in the Sacred Valley. It's called Cuichi Yachta, which is the Quechua word for rainbow community, essentially, rainbow tribe. And yeah, we are not just a retreat center, we are a community, a beautiful community of multicolors, multi-talents, yeah, people from all over the world coming together on the land of Urubamba in Peru's Sacred Valley. And the community is becoming more, okay, it's spreading around the world, but the actual hub of the community, which is in Urubamba in the Sacred Valley, it's becoming more and more self-sustainable every single day. And that is something that, yeah, deeply excites me, and just the potential of what that holds, and exactly, you know, the kind of tone of what you mentioned this conversation might be about, you know, the implications of that really excite me. And more recently, I'm in Edinburgh right now. I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland, but I am actually officially resident in Peru. I was repatriated at the end of March there after going through an absolute magical mission to help a group of 17 Brits to get from the Amazon jungle, which is where I was living with my maestro and his family, going pretty deep with the Shipibo tribe, over to Lima to catch a repatriation flight to London. And yeah, like literally, what the heck? Like literally 2 days after I landed, like after 2 days after I arrived home, I got this invitation to start my own radio show on this amazing internet radio station called Wellbeing Radio. And boom, like the title for my show came from who knows where. It was instant. Tribal Tonic for Modern Mankind. So my weekly show, it airs every Friday at 7:30 p.m. UK time, and it's called Tribal Tonic for Modern Mankind. And it's all about how we can employ indigenous wisdom and ways in our everyday waking lives in the modern setting that the grand majority of us live in. Yeah, so I hope that's enough. My wife is a native Peruvian. I married her 11 years ago. We have a 6-year-old daughter, 6.5-year-old daughter. And as soon as lockdown ends, we're heading straight back to Peru to get in amongst that community once more.
We'll definitely be dropping the link to the radio channel as we go, and I'm really excited to listen to that myself, because as I said, I listened to like 2 minutes of it, and we're already talking about sacred doors and magic and traditions and everything, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And you know, on the other side, this is where I jump. I want to say that I see your posts with your wife and your daughter often, and they bring me so much joy, and there's so much love that just exudes from your posts for your family. That's just another thing that I truly deeply enjoy about you just as a human being. Not only are you on this magical journey, but you've woven that into a very, like, a human life and a human existence with this family that you love so deeply. So I'm loving watching this journey of yours unfold. I want to rewind for a second. I just want to like take a trip down memory lane before we get to how you became so deeply passionate about what you're doing.
Hmm.
And I want to know, because I don't know, how did you get introduced to the plants and to the tribes of the Amazon? Which plant was it that you
Hmm.
met? And how did you know? When was that moment where you knew I'm gonna walk this path? Was it an immediate knowing, or was it something that happened over time? These are usually such magical stories. So what
Um,
happened?
yeah, man. Actually, surprisingly, even though I have chosen to walk my path side by side and in communion with Madrecita Ayahuasca, um, my first plant in, well, actually, if we were to go right back, like my first completely unconscious, like wild drug taking teen, smoked Salvia divinorum. Um, and well, I had my, well, yeah, I feel like my being was cut into 5 different pieces and put back together again. That's what I feel like. But in a sacred context, my journey with sacred indigenous plant medicines in a sacred context with sacred mindset and with high intention happened with San Pedro. My first experience was with San Pedro on the edge of Lake Titicaca. I don't know how much context to give you because it's pretty damn big, right? I ended up I ended up going with the intention to live in Argentina for 6 months, spurred on by the inspiration given to me by my best friend from teenagers who was from Argentina and is the reason that I became bilingual by age 15, Spanish English. And whilst I was living there for 6 months, I went through this mind shattering, and yes, I'm saying shattering because everything that I thought was real back then was shattered into smithereens. Awakening at the hands of an Argentinian uh, white witch, we may call her. I've had her on a live on my Facebook at some point last year, and we're still in contact. We're probably going to work together at some point down the line. But and at that point, man, holy moly, my whole life was flipped upside down, and I had a fucking 100-kilo backpack full of like Armani jeans. Like what the hell? I was like the luxurious, the trendy backpacker, right? Um, or at least I was learning what you know what my what meaning I gave to backpacking and traveling, right? Back then I was what? I was just turned 19, right? And yeah, fuck, I decided, like, after only 4 months, I blasted all the cash that I'd saved for 6 months of residence in Argentina, right? But I did not care. By that point, I'd already decided I'm not going home. I phoned the airline. I canceled my flight home. I decided, like, I'm doing this. There's an energy moving through me. I'm going to move. I'm going to hitchhike. So I hitchhiked from Argentina all the way through Chile, all the way through Bolivia into Peru. And along the way, I like did some like exchanges, working with, hostels in exchange for a bed. And, I had a really great time traveling up the coast of Chile. Oh my goodness. And yes, things got pretty wild along the way. I did find myself buying handheld fishing lines just in case that I needed to fish for a for sustenance, for survival, basically. And I did find myself in the back of trucks, carving out what I thought were spears with my little penknife, right, ready to hunt rabbits in the desert of Atacama, northern Chile. Thankfully, I did not have to hunt or fish for my food. Thankfully, at no point that happened. Along the way, I sold all my fucking Armani jeans, all my diesel t-shirts, and all my diesel belts, and all that stuff that I took in that 100-kilo backpack, and I just packed a very small portion of my bag. In fact, I think I swapped bags along the way for a much smaller one that was just full, or well, kind of almost full with uh, traveler clothes, like light clothes. Yeah, the stuff that you can buy from the local people in South America. As I was traveling through Bolivia, of course, the hitchhiking scenario in Bolivia and Peru is extremely different to what it is in Chile and Argentina, which are two countries that are very much in tune with the Western world, much more so than Bolivia and Peru, who are much more like roots indigenous. You know, the grand majority of their country is populated by indigenous people. And so this concept of hitchhiking doesn't really exist. And so I found myself hitchhiking with local peasants who don't really hitchhike, but they pay subsidized fees to commercial vehicles that take them from city to city between the Andes Mountains to sell their like produce and, you know, like to sell stuff basically in local markets. So from their homes to local markets in other cities. That, first of all, was where I came, I mean, not just face to face, but literally fucking like leg over leg, resting my head on the shoulder of, you know, old Bolivian men as we traveled through the Andes Mountains. Like that was my first total, close, tangible encounter with truly, you know, roots indigenous people, some of who did not even speak Spanish, right? So the communication between us was, you know, quite limited at times. And something started to happen in me there, right? Something started to happen. It was like something started to be woken up. I always think back to the Motorcycle Diaries, the story of Che Guevara, his early days, and when he came into contact with the indigenous people, and that stirring energy that began, I can see it happening in him. You know, he's just like this is a whole fucking other world, man. You know, really mind expanding. And by this time, I'd obviously just through, I can't even remember how, but through the grapevine, heard of San Pedro. It just came up in my life, and I started to ask locals where I could get it. And they told me like vague answers: in the Andes Mountains, blah blah blah. In La Paz, I managed to get some San Pedro from the market, and I reconnected with a couple, just the way travelers circles and cycles go, right? Who is?
I think we have Pete on here.
Oh, cool.
I think Pete, your last name not coming up, but I think it's Peter Couch for sure.
Ah, okay. Okay, cool. I didn't know that like we could receive. Oh, are people actually on this Zoom call?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, Peter and Dylan at the moment.
Okay, cool. Nice. Thanks for tuning in, guys. So where was I?
You just got the San Pedro from La Paz by talking to the locals and picking it up. I know Peter's going to be resonating with this deeply because he lived in La Paz for a period of time and he knows that we were just talking about this recently. I don't think that's changed a lot. But anyway, you got the San Pedro from La Paz?
Yeah, and I reconnected with two girls who had like I'd actually hitchhiked for a good stretch of the path with them up the Chilean coast, and here we were all of a sudden like reconnecting with each other in La Paz, and then we went on to, well, separate but reconnect with a planned reconnection in what do we call it, Copacabana. And I had the cactus, right? And so we camped on the edge of Lake Titicaca, and we went there. You know, we went there. That was the very first experience I had with you know, sacredly intended sitting with plant medicines. But it wasn't until what, August or September 2011 in Poland that I sat ayahuasca, yahe, with a Colombian taita. And it was in that ceremony that yeah, I chose to have my journey in a hammock, right? And I'm like lying under the trees in my hammock, and I'm just receiving all her magic, man. And it was in that moment that she kind of spoke to me and like kind of gave me the inclination that I would be working with ayahuasca to help other people to heal, right? And yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to answer that call. I literally only started to answer that call in December 2019, right? Even though I've been working shamanically, working in core shamanism, and working profusely with the medicines myself, like for my own journey and whatever, and guiding people and coaching people, right, through medicine experiences and stuff for like literally years. You know, some of the transformations, some of the like lives that I've seen turned literally upside down at the hands of the medicines over the past few years is incredible. But again, I never actually decided, right, you know, I'm answering this call until yeah, like somewhere between October and December 2019, right?
I'm going to come back because I have a question specifically about that, but I want to ask you first, because you said it was in this San Pedro journey that you had, you started off by saying it was mind shattering. And it sounds like, you know, you were traveling down one path and your life changed. You've done some dramatic shifts and changes in your life. What was the realization? What was that? Like, the mind shatteringness normally leads to some realization that then changes us. Do you remember what the shift was in your own consciousness that happened that changed your life so dramatically?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that pops up is actual like witnessing people's lives having been heavily affected by experiences of past lives, right? And this happened through through this like white witch, basically, right? And I mean, I won't give too much time or energy to this one specific thing that she said, but it is significant, right? I try not to give too much time or energy to it because we risk getting caught up in those stories, right? That you know, and I really want to just be in the present and, you know, like hold that as a potential and a possibility. But basically, you know, first of all, she could see literally fucking everything in my life, right? She could see my feelings and what I felt at 7, 8, 9 years old because of this person. And like, she was just talking to me like, oh, and you shouldn't feel about this person like that because of what she did at that age. You know, this, when that happened, and I was just like, whoa, this fucking completely shattered. My mind completely shattered into pieces with that. But one of the things that she told me was that you know, my past, in my most recent past life, I was one of the missing in the last Argentinian dictatorship, which happened between 76 and 83. And I was born in 89, right? So and the general notion is that a soul, when passing into the other side before reincarnating, must spend at least 100 years up there to recuperate energy and stuff. But because I died so young, a young student, militant, you know, anti government, anti like left wing kind of militant activist, this was her theory, right? Because you died young, your soul still had loads of energy. And I mean, again, I won't give too much thought or energy to it, but you know, like I've been married to a Peruvian for 11 years now, right? I have the Peruvian flag on my desk and up on my wall and whatever, right? And I'm actually resident in Peru and en route to holding a Peruvian passport. But still, after all these years, whenever I meet people, even Argentinians themselves, they're always like, which part of Argentina are you from? You know, like, you know, I'm hearing Buenos Aires, but like provincia maybe, or just a bit further south. And I'm like, no, man, funny story, you know? So maybe that might give a little bit of an explanation to that. But to go back to your question, this just fucking blew this whole thing of past lives open for me, right? And I started to study Brian Weiss, who is a psychiatrist. You might be familiar. Psychiatrist.
I'm familiar. Yeah. I've read a number of his books. Yeah.
Cool. Many lives, many masters. You know, many masters. I can't remember. Many souls, one. Whatever. Many bodies, one soul. Whatever. Yeah. All his books, like I just hammered through them, like in the space of a month, like, just like scoffed them, hoovered them up, and that was what that. Yeah. I mean, together. The shattering moment was when she was like, you know, this that happened to you when you were this age, and that person that said this thing to you, you know, try not to feel too much like this about them because they were just, you know, XYZ. And I'm just like it just blew me wide open, man, you know, like, and of course I was crying. I was in a fit of tears, you know, receiving these words and these teachings from her. So yeah, it was that was the awakening moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I resonate with so much. I say this to everybody, but I resonate with a lot of what you're saying there. And, you know, I'll just jump in here and just share a little bit as well. We'll go backwards and forwards. I wasn't brought up in a religion myself in which we believed in past lives. In fact, anybody who believed in past lives in my upbringing was like a crazy mad person until I went to India and realized that I was a minority in not believing in these past experiences. And I found Brian Weiss there as well. And I, again, same thing, many lives, many masters blew my mind. And I wrapped it up. I was just like, totally digested this book. Then had a number of past life experiences as well. But it's interesting because I had a very similar feeling as you're saying, don't get too attached to this. Don't get too attached to this. And I remember reading in the Course in Miracles a bit later, there was this beautiful question that said, do past lives and reincarnation, does it exist? What is it? And I was very interested because we can get caught up in these stories. And the answer, you know, some of these incredible texts blew me away. I've had life-shattering moments from medicine and from books, but it said, it's both. It's both. When we are traveling in what looks like a linear lifetime, then it seems like there's past and there's future. And a lot of that, it's designed. There's a perfect design along the way that helps us come to these realizations. And it said, but in the ultimate reality, everything's happening now, so there's no such thing. So it's these two things existing at one time. But what I came to understand through it, instead of judging past lives or trying not to get held up in them, if that's the experience that's coming up, there may be a reason that that's coming up, and it may be the way in which the universe, or which is also you, is communicating with you to bring you to those realizations where you're sitting in tears and you're having those mind-shattering moments and you're realizing it's all love or it's forgiveness.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how I see it anyway. It's like, even if it's true or not, if it's helping you to come to these and the same realizations that every human being is having at some point or another about we are one, it is love, it's about forgiveness, then you know what? It doesn't matter how you get there. You could be experiencing past lives and coming to the same realizations, or you could be meeting aliens and coming to the same realizations, or you could do none of it and sit in like the bodies, in samadhi, go beyond the whole thing and just tap straight into oneness and come to the same realizations. It does not matter. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's really nice not to get stuck on any story, but also not to, minimize.
Brush it off the table. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to throw it out either, because there's power in these methods to help you realize who you are.
Boom.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
I love it. And I it's something that I always say, man, because I witness like a lot of, well, I mean, I'm a critical thinker, right? I'm a critical thinker, and I love science. So I really, I find myself studying a book on biomedicine right now. I'm doing a MOOC, a short course on Coursera on, it's called Women in Environmental Biology, and big part of that is ethnobotany. I love science, right? And I'm a critical thinker, but I'm also a shamanic practitioner, right? And I'm also an animist. When I see, fellow science enthusiasts and people who, scientific academics kind of getting a little bit caught up in debating the specifics of particular experiences or happenings or occurrences, I'm like, it really doesn't fucking matter, man. Really, what matters is the result, the realization, the breakthrough, the healing, the transformation, right? That's what matters. So who cares? Who cares what the specifics are, if it's real, if it's not? If it brought a powerful moment of breakthrough, transformation, realization for that person, fucking let's have it every single day.
And this is where my critical mind comes in, because it's like, and the scientist, right, who's going down that pathway of trying to figure out the nitty gritty of it is the exact path that's probably going to eventually bring them into the realization that they're searching for anyway. So that's just their method of trying to understand divinity. And it will, in some way or another, turn up for them. So, you know, we do it in all these multiple different ways. And
many paths to Rome.
there we go. That's another title that's similar to like Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters, Many Paths. One
There you go.
God. Oh,
there you
so
go.
fascinating. I just want to, Peter's just come on here. I can see his beautiful face, and Peter's actually in like this similar process of following the shamanic path, and he's down there in Peru right now doing some like deep work. So, you know, thanks Peter for being on here. This really excites me. There's a lot of human beings right now who are putting themselves through these incredible initiation processes. So I have a question for you, Mark. This is an interesting one. If you started working with the medicines, and you were working with them for such a long period of time, and you were so dedicated and you were so determined, and you were helping people transform their lives, and they were changing their lives, and you were seeing all of that, but you don't feel like you answered the calling for so many years to then become like a steward or a practitioner, however you want to see that, of ayahuasca. Why do you think it took you so long? What were you waiting for in order to say yes? And
the $1 million question.
And just to back that up, do you think it needs to take that long?
Well, I'll answer the last question first. Let me see if I can change the light here. Yeah. Man, there is no time scale to it, right? If it happens now, it happens now, right? If it happens yesterday, it happens yesterday. It probably did happen yesterday whilst it's happening now, because, you know, we know how it rolls. Oh my goodness. Why? For me in particular, I feel resistance to answer this, right? I feel resistance as I feel into myself, because it's multi-layered. The answer is multi-layered. There is a level of there has been, there still is like a level of what's the word, ancestral wounding from white man versus indigenous man. I'm stealing from you, that energy. Who the fuck am I to do this? And not on a self-worth kind of course it entails self-worth as well, but more so like, I'm not fucking indigenous, man. I'm not like indigenous Peruvian, Shipibo, Kaminsa, Kofan, whatever. Like, yeah, there was that conversation going on. And also what that is kind of, I mean, what unearths that underlying sentiment of guilt and doubt, and what unearths that is something that is actually, that I find really, really positive and powerful, which is a deep reverence and respect for the medicine and for the indigenous people who brought them forward into the world, right? But then there's also, and I did say this answer was multi-layered, right? So then there's also me. So the trigger of what I'm about to say, the trigger point was me becoming a dad. And the trigger point to what, you may ask? The trigger point to something which took me it took me miles in that direction to come back and whirl around and kind of realize, remember what my calling was. Entrepreneurship, right? Like big business, the dollar signs, the bling bling, maybe not the bling bling, right? Because I've never really been a bling bling guy, but the opulence, let's just say the opulence, right? And the all of that stuff. Which I don't shun and don't think is wrong or, in any way whatsoever. But just the way that I approached it was very imbalanced. And I got caught up in those stories of like, in order to be this, I must first have this or achieve this. I must first reach this stage in order to progress onto this stage, you know? So all of that, man, all of that, that's what took me so long to kind of answer the call. And really what came to the final, what brought me to the final, like the el colmo in Spanish. How do I say it in English? Like the cliff edge, like the last, you know, the last straw, let's just say, was 2019, man. Like literally having bankruptcy papers filled out, ready to send away on my desk. Like kind of hitting rock bottom on all fronts, like financially, emotionally, like, yeah, bankrupt in all senses of the word. And then being coached back. So I won a scholarship to become like a certified coach with the Association for Coaches. And through that process, of course, any coaching certification or process is first and foremost a self-coaching process, right? So through that whole process, I kind of was coached back into this calling, this why, this reason, for raison d'être, as the French call it, which had one last little drop of the old energy to be squeezed from it towards the end of last year, which was that same energy. And this is my own story, it belongs to nobody else, it's my own journey. But it was I found myself telling myself all, or living with all the same energies of like lack, unworthiness, and a lot of what that like millennial entrepreneurial race can do for you, still embodying all that shit whilst decorating it with a nice spiritual bed of, or a jacket of feathers, right? And I had some unicorns and stardust on top. And then of course the jungle, in December, the jungle just fucking just brought me right back down from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm gonna do one thing. I'm gonna turn my light on, but I'm just gonna do that because that'll be helpful. But you know, I want to honor you actually in bringing that up, because what I think, even though this is your own personal journey to your own self-worth and your own calling, you're touching on pain points of many, many people right now who are feeling similar callings and going through similar doubts and similar kind of processes. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm going to speak on behalf of a number of people who I think, especially if they're called to listen to these types of conversations, are probably in some way going through a similar process. Not everybody, but some people. And that is the moment of connecting with something. It doesn't really matter what it is, but we'll talk about the plants. We'll talk about connecting with the spirit of ayahuasca, or one of these traditional medicines that have obviously come from the jungles and come from a very long line of tradition and culture that we're not from. So we're Westerners, we're meeting these medicines, we're feeling a very deep calling. I'm talking on behalf of myself here as well. And I remember the moment where I felt that similar calling of, I deeply wanted to work with this medicine. And then this plethora of backlash of my own mind and cultural conditioning. For me, it wasn't too long, but it was, you're not a shaman, you don't come from the culture, you don't have, you know, Peruvian or Bolivian blood. It was that in there as well. Like, who the fuck are you to step forward and to do this? And then also, not only was it that, it was actual people in the environment saying, you're not a shaman, you don't have Peruvian blood, it takes 10 to 20 years. You know, there's all of these ideas and stories about how it should be. And some of it makes a lot of sense, some of it. But then on top of that, talking about your multi-layered stories, there's that inner calling that when I'm guessing you're the same, I'm guessing Pete's the same, I'm guessing many other people are saying, when you do go into the medicine, all of that disappears and it's just you and spirit. And it's saying, I have a task for you. Do you want to take it? I have a task for you. Do you want to take it? I have a task for you. Do you want to take it? And I remember those moments for me personally where I was sitting and I could feel the call of my spirit saying, I have a task for you. Do you want to take it? And it was actually very exciting and very joyful and very innocent in many ways. And all the conditioning saying, you know, if you step into this, it's going to be painful. It's going to be hard. People are going to judge you. Who do you think you are? That you don't have the training, you don't have this. And yet this innocent spirit was saying, I have a calling, do you want to take it? I have a calling, do you want to take it? And for me, I just got to that point, and it was, we all learn this in our own way, but I got to that point where I knew if I listened to the voice of fear, that path was going to be even more painful on the inside to not listen to that calling than to take the calling and see what happens. And it has been a process of building self-worth. But here is where that next question I would like to bring in. How do you believe, and I think you're one of the best people to ask about this because of the amount of time that you've spent on the path and because of who you kind of are in a sense of Western, but also deeply embodied in many different other cultural practices. How, as a Westerner, do you feel that you could rise up, take the path of listening to the spirits and maybe walking what we would deem a shamanic path without disrespecting the culture, but also without disrespecting your own calling to move into this path? So how do you navigate doing that nicely for both yourself and honoring yourself and your own truth, and also honoring the tradition and the roots in which these medicines have come from?
Mm-hmm. So I actually touched upon this in, I think it was episode 2 of my radio show recently. And where I am at currently, of course, subject to change, given any conversation that may unfold in my life, but definitely where I'm at currently and where I feel pretty solid with at the moment on that, because it's very present with me, you know, quite often. It comes up a lot, given the circles that I walk in, right? So I think that it is, I mean, we will live in misery if we don't answer our own personal callings, first and foremost, yeah? And yeah, where I've found solace and comfort is in this, again, my path, choosing the lineage that I'm going to work. I've worked with so many different lineages, choosing the lineage that I'm going to birth my serving the medicine from. But my serving the medicine doesn't necessarily, in fact, I know already it's never ever going to be strictly. So just for information purposes, my chosen lineage is Shipibo, and that's where I launch from, that's where I birth from, right? But already, even as I learn from my Shipibo maestro, my offering is not strictly Shipibo, because I'm playing handpan and I'm playing guitar and I'm doing different things that are kind of more fitting to a kind of Western setting, right? So so that's why I am not a purist or a traditionalist, or at least at this stage of my journey, as I said. I don't feel. I feel that we are here to evolve and expand. Yeah. Look at yoga, man. We've got like fucking how many styles of yoga now? And it all started with one style, right? Or a couple of styles. I'm not a yogi, so I don't know. My wife would probably correct me on that one. But yeah. And like, look how many yogas we've got now. Like, we've got like Scaravelli. Scaravelli is some Italian woman that, you know, joined this yoga with that yoga and made her whole new own style of yoga with no traditional names in her yoga style, and she created her own lineage, So that's where I feel, that's where, that's what feels good to me, is if people choose to learn from the indigenous, basically learn from them, but adapt it in the way that their calling calls to them. And then, of course, there's the other side of it, which is not the way that I've done it, and but which I see other people having done it, which is listening to and liaising with, purely with ayahuasca herself, with no indigenous uh, interpreter or medium in between, just them and the plant. And I mean, I hope it's okay to mention a name that we know uh, mutually. Fernanda, she's a perfect example of, I mean, she might have worked with, I'm not 100% sure if she's worked with different lineages or whatever, different traditional lineages, but I can see that the grand majority of her journey has been just her and ayahuasca, right? And it's been a fucking long journey, right? And she has, she's become a very powerful facilitator, I was deeply touched by the experience that I received with her in Mexico. Um, so, I guess coming back full circle to your question, I don't think there's any one answer, but where I have found my place of solidity, conviction, comfort, can we call it comfort? Um, in the good sense of comfort, huh? Not like limiting myself, but like where it feels good for me is to work with the indigenous and evolve from the knowledge that the indigenous give me. But I do see, respect people who choose not to do that and just go with their calling to the plant and liaise with the plant directly. It's a completely different way of doing things that I don't know, so I can't really comment from personal experience, but I respect it, and I realize that it's just another path to Rome, right? I do whatever, and there's some people that are purists and traditionists with the didgeridoo, by the way, in didgeridoo circles. I'm a didgeridoo player, right? And there are people that are like, no, you can't play didgeridoo, and again, like, oh, and if you're a woman, you can't play didgeridoo, and all this stuff. Like, they tell me, you can't play didgeridoo until you've been initiated by the Aboriginals, and well, I'm sorry, dude, but like, I got that strong calling in 2009 as well, and I picked up a didgeridoo and started to play it. But every time I pick up the didgeridoo to play it, especially when I'm playing in front of people, especially, but even in my own little space in silence, whenever I'm playing a didge, I always send energy back to the Aboriginals who brought this beautiful, beautiful sacred instrument into the world, right? And I think that anybody that is working with ayahuasca or whatever plant medicine they choose to work with no indigenous medium in between them should really act with yeah, with reverence and respect in such a way. And that's the other thing I was going to say. Wherever and whenever I get the chance to like serve or give back to the Aboriginals, like through donation, or if something just crosses my path, it's an Aboriginal cause, like I will pay it attention and I will give it my energy. And if it's money, then I'll give it my money. Always, like give back to the Aboriginals from that perspective. And that also leads me into just giving back to the earth as well. Like we can also like if we discover, if we don't have the means to like travel to the places where these indigenous people reside, or if we're limited in our circumstances or whatever, like we can simply cycle back with Mother Earth and go to the nearest river or burn a fire, or and just offer our gratitude and whatever we can offer, flowers, biscuits, you know, whatever, like just as an offering, just as an energetic exchange. Yeah. um whew, I hope I answered that question.
Oh, you're touching on some seriously beautiful concepts here, and I have so much that I could share, and there are so many. Again, I'm just going to follow my path of excitement. Going back for a minute to Fernanda, we can absolutely drop her name in here, because Fernanda was who I started my journey with ayahuasca. And I want to share a little bit here because it changed my life. But it wasn't just the medicine, it was who she was as a person, and I'm incredibly grateful for her. She's going to come on and she's going to do a Psychedelic Sunday in a couple of weeks as well. And again, Peter's here as well, and I know he's had a lot of interaction with Fernanda as well, and she has absolutely changed our lives. But I remember it was only my 5th ceremony with ayahuasca, and I wasn't even sitting ceremony. I was helping to be a support for it, and I had a very interesting moment. And they had set the support chairs up around the ceremony. Fernanda was sitting at the front, and I sat in this chair, and I got this very strong message that said, "This isn't your chair." And I had this inner dialogue for a minute, and I said, "What do you mean it's not my chair?" And it said, "It's not your chair. You're not meant to sit here." And I was saying, "Well, where am I meant to go?" And this feeling said, "Go and ask Fernanda if she needs help." And I said, "No way. There's no way I'm going to go sit up there with Fernanda and help her. This is my 5th ceremony. Never, no way." But then there was that moment, if I sit here and I'm not listening to that calling, I knew that I'd be sitting there in fear and that I wasn't listening. So I eventually got up, and I was shaking, and I like tiptoed up there, and I said, "Do you need some help?" And she said, "Yes, absolutely. Sit down." And the next thing, I'm sitting there and I'm helping, and I'm just keeping my head down. And probably about an hour into the ceremony, I lean over to her and I whisper and I say, "Thank you so much for letting me sit here. I am highly unqualified and highly unworthy to sit in this position." And without even a glitch, she said, "Don't be ridiculous." She said, "Ayahuasca told you to sit here and do your job." And in that moment, all that fear just like dropped out of me, and I realized it was service. That was the first kind of interaction I had with Fernanda. The second thing that happened with Fernanda is she offered that I come and support in ceremonies with her. This was just really powerful on my journey. And I remember asking her for advice, and she said, "I trust you. I trust you." And I remember, because this beautiful soul who'd spent 20 years on her own path was saying she trusted me, I thought, bloody hell, I better step up and be trustworthy then.
Yeah.
Do my best in this. And I realized, God, she said some beautiful things along the way. It was about my 14th ceremony with ayahuasca. And again, none of these numbers matter. It's all personal. And I had spent the whole journey talking to ayahuasca, feeling this calling of, "I want to work with you, but I'm not traditionally trained. I want to work with you, but I'm not traditionally trained." And her saying, "That's okay. I can train you. That's okay." And anyway, I went to Fernanda again and kind of timidly said to her, "This is so crazy, and I don't want to be coming from a place of arrogance because I'm not traditionally trained, but I really feel deeply that I can work with this medicine." And she said to me, "Not only can you work with this medicine, you can work with this medicine well." And that was hard to hear at first because, all of the conditioning around having humility, and it's not humble to believe this. And, she said to me something very profound that I travel with all the time. She said, "I traveled with my shaman and worked on my own process with my shaman for 11 years. She said 11 years before she started serving. She said she was waiting for him to tell her she was ready, waiting. And she said, the day that he told me I was ready, she said, it was the day I decided I was ready. So it was the day I decided I was ready. And he knew that. So he just reflected that back to me. And she said, these just such kind and beautiful, profound things along the way of, it is such a personal journey of you being ready to trust yourself. So I had Fernanda as my teacher. And then I've also had a Shipibo, worked with Lucy, who Peter's with right now, and also Warren, who's another trained, she's in Bolivia. And what I started to sense from both of these people, I've had such beautiful interactions with shamans, is that it's a creative path in many ways, and that your essence will come through you in these ceremonies when you get out of the way. You know, this is the same teaching in so many things, but there is this creative element to a ceremony because the healing happens when you get out of the way, and that's coming through you. And maybe that's going to be through the guitar, and maybe that's going to be through the handpan, and maybe that's going to be through a language that resonates deeply with you in that moment and the people in your ceremony, which is why, you know, we can talk about language in a minute. And I started to realize through this process that there is training, but there also is training to get out of the way, because your channel becomes the healing. And, you know, so I wanted to touch on all of those things through that story with Fernanda, and this being a very creative process and something that I've very much been in, but, you know, on my own, in my own journey as well. I'm not on my own at all by any means. Was there anything else that you said? What else did you say? You said something very interesting there. Anyway, you might want to bounce off me from that point of
yeah, no, I mean, I was also fishing in my mind trying to find this thing that was said, because it was like boom, boom. I've been having these conversations in my community, in the community that we're like co-creating down in the Sacred Valley, right? And I, for the life of me, I can't find that conversation and exactly what it was. But what it brings to the table is, I just want to give a shout out to this indigenous Colombian teacher called Emika. I haven't even met him yet. Right? And I haven't even seen anything online or anything. I've never seen him. I've just heard his name being passed through our community. Emika, he's from the Tubu tribe in Colombia. Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to him and say, yeah, thank you for all the wisdom, which is very, very similar to the words that you've just spoken to me. All the wisdom that kind of, that's kind of filtered through.
Thank you for everyone who's had the courage to walk this path. I know what question I'm going to ask you, but I remember what it was. I've got my little Pachamama here. Respect and reverence. And I'm incredibly passionate about respect and reverence, but I've changed my perspective about what this means over time. And I feel, you know, going back to past lives, and, you know, the past and the future, and then this overriding concept that actually everything's happening now. And I get this feeling that having respect for the indigenous tribes of what we might call the past is actually just having respect for the whole universe, including yourself right now. And so in that state of putting yourself in reverence and awe and respect for the indigenous of the past or for Mother Nature, is literally you putting yourself in a vibrational state of gratitude and respect and reverence, which in many ways opens up the gateway to the magic of the plants or the magic of the universe. And I sometimes get this idea that maybe the indigenous of the past, if they could talk, and this is just, again, I play with metaphors and stories, they might not be saying, don't worry about respecting us for just the point of respecting us, but we understand that respect means that you actually have access to the information that we've been trying to share all the way along is there for you. But if you're not in a state of reverence or awe or respect, you don't have access. You don't have access because there are certain vibrational states of being that just don't let you understand the magic of the plants. They just don't let you have access to the magic of what the human being is capable of. We were just listening to Greg Braden the other day, and he's done a lot of study, like research of indigenous and tribal, and not just medicine, but like yogis and practitioners. And they were saying the magic is in the feeling that you're sitting in when you're doing something. And you don't have access to the magic unless you are actually sitting in gratitude or you're actually sitting in compassion. So anyway, that's what I thought. I very much believe respect and reverence is very powerful, but I think it's more than what we think it is. It's not just, oh, like, I respect you. It's like way bigger.
Yeah.
Way bigger. It's universal. changes us.
Yeah. One of the underlying essences of existence itself, right? Yeah. Is there any way that you can, well, maybe you can send me that name that you mentioned you were looking into?
Oh yeah,
I don't have notepad and
yeah,
pen, so
yeah.
send me it later.
Greg
Yeah.
Radom for sure. So this
Cool.
is the next question I want to ask you, because on this path, you know, one of our last, I was talking to Alan Starr a little while ago, and he came up with this concept that nature rewards courage. And I think that this pathway, shamanic pathway, becoming a modern shaman, becoming a facilitator, just even walking the journey of awakening, whatever that means and however you're doing it, really requires courage. And I would love to hear a little from you about what you feel courage looks like and what you feel is the necessary ingredients to really awaken to your greatness. Awaken to your greatness, because you also talk about human potential and human excellence. So what are some of these ingredients that need to go into the stirring pot to awaken the human greatness within each one of us?
Yeah. Number fucking one, like the primary ingredient, is faith. Unwavering faith. Like unshakable faith in the divinity of everything. Man, I get goose pimples when I say that, because I honestly, now that I have the perspective and the way to kind of put it into words and to, yeah, I look back at my life since I left for South America, and even before that, man, even before that, right? Like that is what has woven its way through my entire life, man. Is faith. Yeah, unwavering faith. That everything is happening for a reason, right? That everything is going to be okay. And that if I die right now, actually it's because I'm meant to die. And that's okay too, because life is so much bigger than this physical life. And I have so much faith in my overarching mission that if I die in this moment, then I die doing what I was brought to earth to do. Yeah. Yeah, that's massive for me, man. I'm so glad that you asked me that. And it actually brings me to a conversation that I had with my wife recently, you know, like I was like, if we don't, I mean, there are certain elements to our life at the moment that put certain amounts of like linear time restraints and pressures on us, right? And so I said to her, if the airlines don't open by like, you know, August, then we can sail across the sea back to Peru. You know, that's perfectly feasible. And she came back to me. She's very, I mean, we're like fucking soul twins. So like, she came back and she was like, wow, that would be like really potentially dangerous. We could possibly die in a sea storm, like in the middle of the ocean, you know? And I was like, yeah, you're right. But what is life lived for fear of risk? If we die together, and the world will remember us for having died chasing our biggest dreams in life.
Oh, goosebumps.
Yeah. So, and that's my life philosophy. And by the way, I do not fuck around when I say that. Like, I mean it with every fiber of my being. Hold a gun to my head right now, man. You know, like, yeah, I just have so much faith in the overarching benevolence and purpose of everything that is unfolding in this very moment here and now, right?
Yeah. And before I was just saying, can you repeat that again about living your dreams and not dying in fear? Because it was so powerful. So do you want to just like drop that wisdom bomb again?
So it came from a conversation with my wife in our life path at the moment, we do have certain elements that are putting certain time constraints and limitations, linear time constraints on our life. And so I said to her, and Holly, I don't want to share those particulars of our life path that are putting time constraints on us at the moment.
No,
It's not time to share yet. Yeah.
Wisdom bomb of
Yeah.
living. Yeah. You don't need to
So
share anything other than that if you don't want.
cool. So given those like time constraints that we have in our life at the moment, I said that like if the airlines aren't opening again by August, then it is no problem. We can sail across the Atlantic Ocean back to Peru. My wife, she said to me, "Oh, that's potentially very dangerous. We could die in a storm in the middle of the ocean." And I said, "Yep. So what? What is the meaning of a life lived in fear of risk, of the risk of what might happen? If we die together, and we will die with the world remembering us for having died chasing our biggest dreams in life."
You know, again, I've just covered with goosebumps again, just the second time that you've said that. And I think that you're literally hitting a part of my soul so deeply that, you know, there's these little parts, there's these things. One of them is you're holding this belief and a faith. I totally get it. I get it. But then there's this faith that everything that is happening for a reason and that everything is okay. And I often on this journey for myself realized, even if that's not true, whatever, if we truly believe it in this moment, that is the experience that you will have. And it kind of opens up this potential in your life to chase your dreams, because you can chase them full steam into the darkness. And you can go, I don't know what the hell is going to happen from here. None of us do anyway. But you know, you have faith in one hand, you have the knowing everything is okay. And maybe the plants help with this because you face death and it's not, you don't know what the hell it is.
Most likely.
I'm just with you here, and I vision things. I'm like, you've got faith in one hand, you've got the knowing that everything's okay, you're charging into the darkness, and you have no idea what's in this vast ocean of your consciousness. But it can come back to, and I've thought this often, at least if I die, and I've thought this, I go out knowing that I have used my whole tank of adventure. I have gone all the way in, and and this may be just what holds some people back. Is the fear for me of not following my dream is far more suffocating and far more terrifying in a way than running full speed ahead towards me.
Wow.
Have we like flown over time, have we? I don't even know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I just got like, oh my goodness, what the hell? Wow, this conversation has just like, I don't want it to end, but my wife and I completely forgot that my wife and I are hosting a cacao ceremony. Oh my goodness. What time is it?
It's different here than it is there. You know what? I think that if we end it on that boom, then I think what a beautiful way to go out. That a life lived in pursuit of your dreams and your passions, with faith in one hand and this deep knowing that everything is okay in the other hand, it doesn't then matter what on earth happens in your life. At the moment that you are leaving, you'll go, I gave it everything. I followed my dreams and my passions, and there will be not one strand of regret in your life at all, no matter what happens.
Absolutely, man. You know, and I mean, I really, really mean it. So there are two things that I want to close with. And it's basically one thing. In the overarching energy of it is one thing, but really fucking mean it. Like really, really mean it with every single inch of your being. When I'm talking reverence, respect, adoration, you know, for whatever it is, reverence, respect, adoration, like really, really mean it. Don't just like go there because you know it should be like that on a mental level and that's what you're supposed to be feeling and whatever. Really, really use the breath to let it all sink in fully before you take the action that is required in any given moment that will accentuate and express that, you know, gratitude, reverence, adoration, whatever. Really fucking feel it. And this fear of death, because we know about, we understand the overarching benevolence of life, and if death is now for me, then so be it, because that is the way it was supposed to be. Really mean it, man. Like really, really mean it. Don't just say it because you think it. You know, feel it. Like, get yourself to that place. And well, the medicine's perfect ending to a psychedelic Sunday, right? Plant medicines help us get into that state and actually embody this fear, lack of fear of death. Because through the medicines, in many ways, we face death multiple times over and over and over again, right? So, yeah. I guess the dream thing. Boom. Yeah, I'd love to give Les Brown a fist bump for that quote right there. I'll just read it to those who are tuning in, because I have no idea if anybody else can see this. We came to you, and only you could bring us to life, and now we have to die with you. That is what you say when you imagine yourself lying on your deathbed and being surrounded by the ghosts of all of your dreams. And that's what your dreams, your unanswered dreams are saying to you, right? Yeah, cool. Guys, I'm gonna have to go and host this cacao ceremony.
An absolute pleasure. I have enjoyed this conversation immensely. I think it's the beginning of many, many more. I know that we could talk about these things for a long time. I feel your reverence. I feel your absolute, unending commitment to your own actualization in this. And I think that's what is just so evident in your practice, that you're like, I'm going to think it, I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to mean it, and then I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to follow that with as much integrity. And I think that if we were going to I'm going to sum up what I see exuding from you so beautifully is integrity. Integrity, integrity, integrity. I'm going to set up a link, or I'm going to share a link to your podcast. You have amazing things happening all around the world. If anyone ever wants to follow Mark John Brown around the world, he's got ceremonial work coming up, facilitation work coming up, believe men's work coming up. Check out, we'll put the website up, or whatever it is you want to send me, I'll give out there. And it's my deepest hope and joy that we come together and collaborate at some point in the near future as well, because I know we're really having fun and on the same trajectory. And if not, then I'm just like your soul sister, fist pumping from wherever I am in the world, sending you so much love there. Just to everybody else, before Mark jumps on, if you want to stay on and come off your mics and have a talk at all, I'm happy to stay on for a little bit longer and just like chat with any questions. So I'll stay on for a minute after Mark jumps off, but we just want to send you so much love and so much, just so much love and so much fun on your journey. May you continue having fun. May your cacao ceremony be so blessed tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I take this never-ending, infinite fountain of life force that is the energy this conversation brought, and I am going to go and pour it all over the people in that cacao ceremony. So yes, thank you very much for the blessing of being here, man. Much love.
Thank you so much, Mark. Just check yourself out and go and have the best cacao ceremony ever. Pete, Josiah, who else? We got Celeste on here. You know what, if Anna on here, Pete, if you want to come off your microphone, we're still on record, but you are in a magnificent place right now, and you don't have to at all. I'm throwing you on the spot here, but you're just in the midst of.
No, that's okay. Can you hear me though?
Yes.
Okay. It's Mother's Day. There's a party on.
Amazing. Well, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the whole world, all the mothers past and future, including the earth. But you know, Pete, I'm really excited because you're going through this incredible process, and I would love to hear it. Honestly, just if you want to share anything that you're going through, or anything that resonated with you, or anything that you came up that you were like, oh, I'd love to share a little bit about, that, just because you're in it right now, and that's so exciting.
Yeah, that conversation about respect and reverence, and the self-talk about not being indigenous, not being a shaman, all of that is very pertinent to me right now. And in these plantietas that I've been doing, we've spoken a lot about journeys, and I've never had dark journeys, but this last year there has been a lot of shadow work, and I've never had that in my 40 odd journeys, and it's been bringing up a lot of that. So it was good to hear Mark's view on that.
Well, I just want to it's at this moment where when we talk about thinking something and feeling something and meaning something, you really know if somebody truly means it and they're truly willing to run towards their dreams and their callings by the actions they take. And I think the fact that you have gotten on a plane and got yourself into the jungle and you are putting yourself through that process is a huge statement of your courage and your commitment to your own soul's journey. And I personally believe this touches everything all around the world. So I get very excited and I'm very inspired. I'm very inspired by all of you on here, but I'm very inspired when a human being chooses to, do things that are outside of their comfort zones and to face the parts of themselves. Because that's all it is. That's all the shadow work is. It's just that part of you that you've hidden away, that you've been asked to have a little look at. And to do the most ironic thing of all, which is accept and love it. So, that's the power.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's been incredible. It's really transformative. I'm actually going back into now that I can't leave Peru, I'm going back into another full month dieta tomorrow with the sister plant to the one that I just finished.
Wow.
It's going to be interesting.
We send you so much love on your journey. Send you so much love on your journey. May you find the peace of the universe and continue to dance with that.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Anna, Josiah, do you have any questions you want to ask? Otherwise, or Celeste, any of you are welcome to come off your microphones if you have any questions or if you have anything you'd like to share. I'll just leave a minute open for that before I take the recording off.
I have a question. So I feel like I'm at some point going to be facilitating ceremonies with psilocybin in the future. And I know that there's a lot more work left for me to do with it before I get to that point. And just curious if you have any tips or pointers on how to prepare for it through the journeys that I take between now and then to just deepen that relationship with the plant.
What's your highest excitement when it comes to working with the plants?
Definitely the deep healing and breakthrough that comes with the work with those plants, with anxiety, depression, and seeing the transformation that's available to people who really, really connect with their demons, for lack of a better word, really face those shadows and the transformation that comes with it.
It may be because I've just been listening to Bashar, but it's been coming up. Follow your highest excitement. That is going to be the quickest way to actualize your soul's journey and your soul's excitement. Follow your highest excitement. So I could tell you, this is my recommendation of XYZ, but it would really only be the things that worked for me. And that worked for me because I followed my highest excitement. So follow your highest excitement. And the best way to prepare yourself is to do things that excite you. Read the things that excite you if they turn up. Listen to the people that excite you if it turns up. You have direct access to communicating with the whole universe, just from you and the universe. So there is nothing stopping you besides a belief, and it's the same with anybody, to ask any of these questions directly to yourself and get the direct answer that you're seeking for yourself. And usually that comes through some sort of excitement. So I would say the preparation is vibrational. It's vibrational. It's not something that is like, here is class 1, here is class 2, here is class 3. It's vibrational. And your guidance system is always saying, come this direction, come this direction, come this direction. So follow that excitement. And I would even go as far as to say, I'm watching you turn up here, there, you're on this conversation now. Are you not already doing it?
Absolutely. Sure. And for me, it's a balance of that vibrational guidance, and the universal guidance, and also like the quantifiable aspect of it, right? Like how much to dose, right? Which varieties do this and that, and much like with your work with
This is beautiful.
ayahuasca.
Don't separate them. Allow the vibrational guidance to lead you to the perfect answers in the quantifiable world.
Okay.
So allow your vibrational guidance system to take you to the website that's going to give you the best information for you, or to the person who's going to give you the best information for you. Because again, we've had these conversations before when it comes to dosage, and we were talking with Dylan about this, it's different for every person.
Absolutely.
And so how are you going to find the exact right thing other than listening to your guidance system, who could lead you to the information? So the quantifiable and the energetic are not separate. But use your guidance system. And this is why we talk about excitement, because excitement or the higher vibrational feelings are the ones that are navigating you, saying this is the thing. Goosebumps is like, oh, that resonates with me. You know, so that's a really good indication of, oh, that resonates with me, and to follow that. So if you land on, it can be so simple. You can play this in your material life. You may open a website. I'm coming back to the quantifiable, Google. You know, Dr. Google, you go on Google, you search a bunch of things, you open up a bunch of resources, and the fourth one down jumps out at you, and you open it up, and, you know, you're reading through it, and one sentence pops out 4 pages down the page, and that thing speaks to you. That is the magic of the universe communicating to you through that medium right now. And so instead of me giving you answers here, all that at this point, for me, in my highest excitement, it is to say to you, follow your highest excitement, because this is a process about slowly realizing you have all the tools, all the answers, the compass, and everything inside of your own hands that are going to navigate you to the exact people, places, and experiences. They're going to show you everything that you already are. It's a giant game of hide and seek, but trust yourself. And I think exactly what Mark said before, which I really love, have faith. When you are following your guidance system, sometimes you walk into the field, a vast field of consciousness. Dylan and I have been talking a lot about this in the process of Earth Pulse and what the journey is. And there's this journey, right, of I take the red pill, I've jumped in, I want to wake up, and you think for a second, it's going to be great from here. And then all of a sudden you're in the vast field of your own consciousness going, holy fuck, everything's changing. I don't understand anything. People are coming and going. And there's this moment of like, I should have taken the blue pill. I should have taken the blue pill. Why did I take the red pill? But you're already in it. And so
taking it UFO.
Yeah, and there becomes a point where in order to move through this vast ocean, you're going to have to at some point take a breath and start to say, I am here and I trust my guidance system. Because at the end of the day, no matter who's around you giving you information, coming at you from all directions, it is your guidance system that will continue to move you through that vast field to the point where you hit land and then step into the next phase, because that's just one phase too. And this is where Dylan and I are saying, and then you start to, like, in the Matrix sense, start to learn your mastery. And this is where we start to realize we're wizards and there's way more. It's just the beginning. So in order to keep going on this journey, now it's time for faith, trust, and your guidance system as best you can, as best you can. You can't get it wrong, but start to build that relationship with yourself where you're like, gonna listen, take that step, feel that everything's okay, and watch how when you listen to yourself, it starts working out for you. So that you're building that evidence that when you follow and trust yourself, everything's always working out for you step by step. And that may go fast or it may go slow. It does not fucking matter. It does not matter. But trust yourself. This is the process of empowerment, and it's personal. It's personal. I hope that helps. I hope that helps. Use that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's at least 10,000 tools out there that you can use, but this is a good one. And that's what we're doing as Earth Pulse. And I love it because what each one of us is doing here right now is going through this process ourselves to become everything that we came here to become And then what we're going to do is we're going to share it with other people, because we're going to realize we're all in the body of one consciousness. And so there's nothing else to do but help each other become ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's really cool. And I know for me, one of the traps, if you will, is to get caught up on like learning all the things. There's so much out there to learn rather than actually just following what I know.
Yes. Well, trust that deeply. And I love how much confidence you say, like, there's so much stuff, follow what you know, because there's, for you. And the medicines, such beautiful tools. I know it's Psychedelic Sunday, such beautiful tools, and they're not separate from us, right? They're really access portals into our own magic. And this is how I really feel that the medicines are. They're portals into our own magic. And if you have questions, there's nothing stopping you using that tool to answer the question. And if you go in with reverence and say, I'm coming to learn from you, in a sense, you could think of this in any way, you're coming to learn from your higher self. You're going in there to learn the wizardry from your higher self. And whoever you believe your higher self to be, the spirit of nature, the spirit of the angels, the spirit of the universe itself, however that comes, that will come to you. And whichever way the universe and you want to co-collaborate will happen for you in the highest and best way possible. Have faith in that. And we're all here to support you on your journey. And then say, come back and tell us what you found.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I really want to drop in with Dylan some more and learn about what his journey was like, because his share a couple weeks ago was really, really powerful and really gave me a lot of perspective.
Yeah. We have an amazing group of human beings turning up in all directions, and we're going to come and we're going to fit together like puzzle pieces. And the way that I see this is we're going to actually shift into a new world together, is what's happening here. And that's just step one, because then it's going to be about actually anchoring so much love and light on this planet that the whole planet eventually will go into some sort of transcendence. And then that is going to be step one. Because I was talking about this with Dylan today, even it's like you wake one cell up in your own body first, and then your body wakes up, and then you wake up as one cell in the planet, and then the planet, individual people wake up as the cells of a planet, and then the planet just becomes one cell in the universe, and then the universe is waking up planetarily, and then I don't even know how far or how beautiful or how spectacular it becomes, but it doesn't matter, because the journey is so much fun. And that is what we're here to do. Wake up, become light, realize ourselves, and to share that with each other, because there is nobody else here except the one thing playing with itself. What a game. I love you guys so much. I honor you so deeply in your journeys. I see myself as you, and I thank you for the work that you are courageously doing, because as you wake up, I wake up. And so thank you for being in this journey with me together. And it's such an honor. It's such an honor. If you guys are a reflection of me, then I die happy. I think I've got to get off, because I'm gonna be that teacher eventually who can sit and like 10 hours later I'm still talking and someone's gonna have to put me to bed. So it's time for me to go, because it just brings me so much joy to have these conversations, especially when we can feel that there's so much potential here for us to step into a new world together. And we came here to see this. We came here to do that. That's why there's so much excitement building, as well as so much fear. The fear is bringing up the excitement. And in that, we know there is a massive possibility for us to actually step into the new world that's already here. And so I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Love you. Thank you, Ollie.
Welcome. And may this journey continue joyfully, effortlessly, courageously, and adventurously. May I see you all soon on our co-created adventures together. Love you. Bye.
Love you, Holly. Bye.